Now, ASA supports object and object group. As you can see, object and object group. When you type object, we can see that network service. For the network, we can specify a host or a range of IP address. On the service, we can specify a protocol or port. Objects are created and used by ASA in place of an initial IP address in any given configurations. An object can be defined with a particular IP address, a netmask pair or protocol, and optionally port. Now we can reuse this object in several configurations. Now the advantage is that when an object is modified, the change is automatically applied to all rules that use the specified object. Therefore, objects make it easy to maintain configuration. Now, this object can be attached or detached from one or more object groups. When we use object groups, you can see that in the object group we can use ICMP type that specifies a group of ICMP types such as echo. Network, it just specifies a group of host or subnet IP address. Protocol, which specifies a group of protocols such as TCP, and services, which is a group of TCP UDP port services. Also users, can single users, local or import user groups. So object can be attached or detached from one or more object group when needed, ensuring that the objects are not duplicated but can be reused when whatever needed. So whatever we needed, we can reuse it. This object can be used in a network address translations, or we can use this object in the access list and object groups. Specifically, network objects are a vital part of configuring network address translations. So when we use network address translations, we're going to be using this network objects. It has a widespread use. Now, how do we configure a object? You can see here we use object command, and then we network object. We use object network command, and then example. This is the name of the network command, and we use host in a single host. And then when we use the show running config object, we can see this example here, and the host is here. Now over here we have used another. So in this example we used an IP address to the name object, which is an example, and we used an IP address. Now here we use a second name object, which is example 1 for the second time, and here we have used host is 192.168.1.4, and then we use a range because we can put a range of IP address in the network. So we use the range command, and then when you use the show running config, we can see object network example 1, and then we can see that the range is 192.168.1.10 to 192.168.1.20. A network object name can contain only one IP address and mask pair. Therefore, there can only be one statement in the network object. Now, entering a second statement, we have used a second statement here. Entering a second, therefore, the only entering a second IP address. And therefore, the network name can only one IP address in there. Therefore, there can only be one statement in there. Entering a second IP address mask pair replaces the existing configurations. You see that the example we have existing configuration is 192.1.1.3, but when we use the example 1 and we use the host and network range, then when we do a show running config, we can see that this statement has replaced this one, the previous one, host 192.168.1.13. Now we can use a no form. We use no form of any of these three commands to remove network object. Now if we want to erase network object, we use clear config object network command. This command clears all network object. Now service object, now containing a protocols and optional source and destination ports, is called subject or subject object. Service object. A service object is configured using object service command. You can see object service 1 that we have used to contain a protocols and optional ports for service. We can object service 1 global configuration mode command. Once we did that, the prompt change it to configure service object configuration mode. The service object can contain a protocol such as ICMP, ICMP v6, TCP, or UDP ports, or also range of ports. It's a service, TCP, destination, port, FTP. Service, TCP, destination port, www, which is HTTP, and so there are 5 service options. One is service protocol, source protocol, and destination, and then the source protocol, port, and source port and destination port. TCP source port and destination port, UDP source port and destination port, ICMP source port and destination port, and ICMP 6. We have used when we use the show running object config object, we can see object service 1, and then service TCP destination HTTP. So TCP, we're servicing TCP, and then destination port is going to be www, which is HTTP. To create a service port, use you can see here that we can use network service protocol, ICMP type services. A service object name can only be associated with one protocol and port. If an existing service object is configured with a different protocol and port, the new configuration replaces the existing protocol and port with new ones. There are 5 service options. One is TCP, UDP, ICMP v6.